Hi, I'm Pastor Jeremy, and this is The Next Generation, where we create videos for you as parents to help you to train your children to be the mature disciples that you want them to be. Now today we're looking at the high school age group, and we're looking at the discipline specifically of Bible reading. And we're outside of the UNM, some of the UNM classrooms here, because this kind of represents some of the antithesis, the things that are going to come in the way of your children during this time, where they should be growing in proportion to their faith as they're growing in proportion to their schooling that's going on right now. Because in high school, they're going to start focusing more, and you're going to have them focusing more on their grades so they might graduate, so they might go into college, so that they might get into a good job. And so there's going to be a lot of emphasis on these areas of discipline in their life. But at the same time, there should be an equal emphasis for your children to be growing in their knowledge of Bible reading. Now, if we go back to our mid-high time, that we were already trying to let go as parents of the discipline of saying that you have to do this at so much a time for so much a day in order to do that. We're trying to teach them this discipline that they would have self-control and do this on their own. Okay, that they would be self-motivated and getting into the Word of God. And so at this age, there's a huge temptation to put a priority of schooling over their biblical reading. Now, if your children at this age in high school, you're just getting started as a parent, and you're saying, I want them to know the Word of God, but they've never been in the Word of God before, I would like to refer you back to the 3rd to 5th grade time on Bible reading, because it sets a good foundation, no matter what age a person is, on how to read the Bible and how to go through the Word of God. There will also be another series coming up after this one, where we're going to help everybody understand the nuances of going through the Word of God and how to best do that. So be on the lookout from that. But until then, go back to the 3rd and 5th grade ones. That'll give you a good foundation to begin. But for those who have walked through this, we're at a time now where we're wanting to encourage our kids to know more and more about the Word of God and to grow in their knowledge of the Word of God in proportion to their faith, in proportion to the other things in which they're learning. And so one of the things I want to ask you as parents is this: as we look with the goal in mind, just like UNM campus represents the goal of where you want your kids to go so they might get a degree in whatever field it is that they're good at or they're interested in having a career for their lives. We have to look as parents at the goal of what we're hoping our children to have after high school. We want them to have a robust, mature, growing faith. So how do we do that, especially as it pertains to Bible reading? Because what normally happens is, during this time, as parents, we put such an emphasis on our schooling, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a necessary thing either. And let me explain this to you. If I were to ask you as a parent, which is more important, your child's faith in Jesus Christ or their grades in school, on a level that we're talking, and me as a pastor, you say, well, of course I want their faith in Jesus Christ. I want their faith in Jesus Christ to be worth more and not less. But the only way to foster that is to allow them to understand that importance that they have in the Word of God doesn't go away when they enter high school. So many of our high school kids who are getting their license for the first time, who are getting their jobs for the first time, who are doing all of these things for the first time and coming into the adult world, also need to understand that their knowledge of the Word of God and that the knowledge of the Word of God to grow them in their faith in Jesus Christ is a non-negotiable. They need to understand that you as a parent are not going to let them slack off on the Word of God. You're going to continue to encourage them. You're going to ask them whether or not they've been in the Word of God this day, this week. What is it that they've learned? How far have they come into it? Are there any questions that have popped up? All of these types of things, all of these huge conversations, especially now, needs to happen, because what happens today, especially among the high school youth, especially among the arguments that they're going to hear in high school and beyond against their faith in Jesus Christ, against their faith in the Word of God, comes from a incomplete knowledge by the world around them concerning this very Word of God that they should be studying. So many things are taken out of context. So many things are taken as one-word lines that if, as a believer, as an understanding believer, if you understood the things in context and how these things were put together, you would also understand that there isn't the contradictions that are out there that are purported to be. And it's important for your youth to understand that, because knowing their faith well will inoculate them from many of the arguments that their friends, that their coworkers, that their professors and other fellow students might bring up to them who are non-believers, because it's at this age that they're going to be challenged the most. And challenging is a good thing. They're going to read things in the Word of God that maybe they've read before, that all of a sudden, because they're hearing other things, they're going to have to try and reconcile these things together. And it's important for you as a parent not only to know the Word of God yourself, to be going through the Word of God yourself, but to be encouraging your kids to staying in the Word of God, because it's the easiest thing for them to drop off. One of the things that I've mentioned in one of my previous videos is the whole idea that as far as getting into the Word of God and getting through the Word of God in about 3.5 years, only takes about 3.5 minutes a day to do it. Your high schooler, no matter how busy they are, they've got that time. Your high schooler, no matter how busy they are, they have the time to make sure that they're in the Word that much. And you as a parent can go a long way to encouraging them, to making sure that they continue with that robust foundation. It will be the foundation that helps them in these other areas that we're going to be talking about later, because it's through this that their convictions are formed. And as their convictions are formed and they understand what the Word says, it's going to make things so much easier for them to defend their faith amongst the things that they're going to be hearing in other areas. So my encouragement to you as parents is you can't slough off on this. You have to make sure that your kids are doing this all the time. You need to make sure that they're not shortchanging their time in the Word of God just because life gets busy. Because I can promise you this, as a youth minister, one of the things that I tell my youth all the time that are in the midst of all of this is I say, you think your life is busy now. This is as free as you're ever going to be. You in your high school life, before your job, before your license, is as free as you're ever going to be. It only gets busier from here. As college comes into play, as jobs come into play, as life begins to happen. You'll have marriage that happens after this and kids that happen after that. And as parents, I know I don't need to tell you that it gets busier, but your kids need to understand without this firm foundation now, they'll let something as important and as foundational as getting into the Word of God drop. And you need to teach them through your conviction that this is something that just can't happen. You're going to model it through your life, and you need to keep pressing it upon your kids, because it's the only weapon that we have against the evil one. We talk about it when we look at the armor of God and what it says in Ephesians chapter 6. The only offensive weapon that's given is the sword, which is the Word of God. And so I want to encourage you as parents, don't let your children drop that sword. It's the only weapon that we have, and if they don't know that well, they'll be wholly unprepared for the other things that they're going to be facing in the world around them, that you're trying so hard as a parent to do that. This is an important time. It can be an encouraging time. It's an amazing time when you see your kids putting these things into their life and seeing it come out of their life as well. But as parents, it may be easier to think that as in high school, as they're becoming more self-sufficient, we take a more hands-off approach, but we kind of have to double down. Not that we're making them do more things, but that we're reminding them more as a mentor, as somebody who's been in caretaking and saying that this is this important. So my encouragement for you guys as parents, please don't let this drop. Please help them to understand how important this is. Continue to walk them through the Word of God, and you'll be building a foundation of faith that will survive the torrents of life. God bless you. I hope to talk to you next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you'd like more great content and more videos like these to help you as parents disciple your kids, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also like us on Facebook. Also, if there's a question that you have or a subject that you'd like to see covered in a future video, comment below on either one of these things, and we will try and make sure that we cover these in a timely manner. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time.